Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Epidemiology For Dummies by Amal Mitra, MD, Dr. Ph. Narrated by Keval Shah. Publisher's Note: this audiobook contains references to visuals present in the print and ebook editions of the book. Limit of liability disclaimer of warranty. While the publisher and authors have used their best efforts in preparing this work, they make no representations or warranties with respect to the accuracy or completeness of the contents of this work, and specifically disclaim all warranties, including, without limitation, any implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. No warranty may be created or extended by sales representatives, written sales materials, or promotional statements for this work. The fact that an organization, website, or product is referred to in this work as a citation and or potential source of future information does not mean that the publisher and authors endorse the information or services the organization, website, or product may provide or recommendations it may make. This work is sold with the understanding that the publisher is not engaged in rendering professional services. The advice and strategies contained herein may not be suitable for your situation. You should consult with a specialist where appropriate. Further, readers should be aware that websites listed in this work may have changed or disappeared between when this work was written and when it is read. Neither the publisher nor authors shall be liable for any loss of profit or any other commercial damages, including, but not limited to, special, incidental, consequential, or other damages. Introduction. As a beginner in public health, you may be on a quest to know about diseases that are affecting your community, other countries, and the world. If you desire to build a career in a field of epidemiology, you want to know more about what causes certain diseases and how they're transmitted. Or, as a public health professional, you want to advise people about disease prevention. You've come to the right place. Epidemiology has been a hot topic in the past few years with the COVID-19 pandemic, but there's so much more to it. Getting a degree in epidemiology is a good choice because the concepts and skills of epidemiology will prepare you for plenty of jobs in public health. Even if you aren't a researcher or data analyst, epidemiology can help you get a sense about numbers when you hear that the COVID-19 rates are rising or coming down, or when you hear that Forest County of Hattiesburg, Mississippi, is the hotspot of lead poisoning. About this book. Epidemiology for Dummies emerged from the needs of undergraduate and graduate students in public health, especially in the field of epidemiology. During the COVID-19 pandemic, almost all face-to-face classes were closed, and classes were only offered online. Some students faced challenges in fully understanding some difficult topics during this online format. This handy guide isn't a textbook or workbook in epidemiology. Rather, I wrote this book based on my decades of experience in practicing medicine, conducting health research, and teaching public health for undergraduate as well as graduate students to help explain the concepts of epidemiology in plain English, with plenty of real-life examples, calculations, and illustrations. Here, you can read about an array of concepts, starting from Epidemiology 101 to more advanced research methods to ethics in conducting human research. I focus on the following areas: the history of the development of public health and epidemiology, the epidemiologic triangle, person, place, time, distribution of diseases, causal association, and Hill's criteria, the 3 levels of prevention, vaccine-preventable diseases, disease surveillance, steps of outbreak investigations, screening methods, epidemiologic study designs, bias and confounding, population projection, ethics in human research. I also provide step-by-step explanations and answers to practical issues like the following: investigating outbreaks and analyzing data, solving problems of sensitivity, specificity, and predictive value, calculating commonly used rates, ratios, and proportions, calculating incidence, prevalence, and standardized mortality ratio, SMR, calculating country-level data for population projection. Foolish assumptions. When writing this book, I've made a few assumptions about you, my dear reader. I made the following assumptions: you're bored, or somewhat disappointed by reading textbooks with small fonts full of concepts after concepts, with few examples of topics that don't provide real-life examples of epidemiologic applications. You've struggled understanding some of the technical terms and concepts in epidemiology, but you see your future working in public health. You're excited about applying what you've studied in your epidemiology courses, but you need a little extra help with the calculations. You've been working a few years in a health department, and you've faced many issues, such as choosing the right study design based on your resources, preparing a questionnaire, or investigating and controlling an epidemic. You're a silent learner, and you don't ask questions in a class. Icons used in this book. Throughout this book, you may note icons which are verbalized in this audiobook that point out extra important information. Here's what they all mean. Tip: for gems of accumulated wisdom, quite often the kind learned by painful experience, follow this icon. Warning: consider this like a stop sign. When you hear it, stop and pay extra attention because you might make a mistake. Perhaps in a math calculation or something extra important, if you're not careful enough. Remember, you're trying to do things correctly and efficiently. Problem is, you may not always know what's right and what isn't. When you hear this, pay attention to the text. Technical stuff. This is used for more advanced material that you don't need to read to understand the concept at hand. It's information that's interesting, but not absolutely essential. Real-life examples. This points out concepts with practical examples, some from my own research. Beyond this book. This book is chock full of tips and other pieces of helpful advice you can use as you study epidemiology. I provide links where you can go online for more information. In addition, check out the book's cheat sheet at dummies.com and search for Epidemiology for Dummies cheat sheet for information to reference on a regular basis. Where to go from here? This book represents a starting point for concepts and uses of epidemiology. Your new learning curve in public health is just beginning. So now what? You can skip to the index or table of contents in the print and ebook versions of the book and find a subject that interests you. Or you can skip to whatever section looks to have the answers and information you're wanting most. No matter where you start, you can read a section or two, stop, and then come back when you need more guidance. I tell my students, epidemiology is easier than you think, and more fun than you can imagine. Part 1. Getting started with epidemiology. In this part, gain a basic knowledge about infection and infecting agents such as bacteria, viruses, parasites, yeasts, molds, and others, how diseases occur, and why you are not sick all the time, despite living in a world with so many infecting agents. Get background information about how the science of modern-day epidemiology came into play through different stages of legendary works in the field. Understanding the scope of epidemiology, two major functions of epidemiology, and the importance of epidemiology in measuring health status, searching for disease causation, and controlling and preventing diseases and events in humans. Identify sources of epidemiologic data, such as the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, the World Health Organization, WHO, census data, vital statistics, and others. Explore older and modern theories of diseases causation, and important contributions of people in laying foundation and the development of different branches of public health. Uncover milestones in public health, such as James Linn's study of finding the treatment for scurvy, the cholera investigation of John Snow, Joseph Goldberger's study of the cause of pellagra, the famous influenza pandemic, the eradication of smallpox, the connection between smoking and cancer, the development of theories of causal association, and more. Recognize the means and ways of controlling several common infections, such as waterborne diseases, airborne diseases, vector-borne diseases, parasitic diseases, and sexually transmitted infections. Chapter 1. Entering the World of Epidemiology. In this chapter, introducing the concepts of epidemiology, finding out about uses of numbers, focusing on prevention. You're about to enter the wonderful world of epidemiology, an adventure of hunting for 5 million trillion, that's a 5 with 30 zeros after it, bacteria, about 6 million parasites, and nearly 7,000 virus species that are prevailing in the world. Thank goodness not all of them are harmful to you. The vast majority of them either live on the planet or inside you harmlessly, or keep at bay like microscopic superheroes. Fewer than 100 species of bacteria, 300 species of parasitic worms, about 70 species of protozoa, and more than 200 viruses are known to cause disease in humans. Most of the disease agents, which are infectious in nature, are controllable, either by antibiotics, vaccines, or by other public health preventive measures, such as personal hygiene, safe water supply, proper sanitation, healthy food habits, and by improving your resistance to infecting agents. This chapter gives you an overview of this world of epidemiology and serves as a jumping-off point into this book. This chapter previews the concepts of epidemiology, mentions the importance of crunching numbers, addresses disease prevention, and discusses disease prevention, and more. Introducing epidemiology. Epidemiology is the study of human diseases and events. Epidemiologists are disease detectives whose jobs include the following: searching for the cause of diseases in humans. All associations aren't causal. Chapter 16 provides concepts on knowing if an association between an exposure and a disease is causal or not. Identifying people who are at risk. Certain host factors are associated with diseases. Descriptive epidemiology, see Chapter 7, deals with person, place, and time factors that are associated with diseases. Chapter 5 addresses the risk of people in getting different types of diseases. Determining how to control or stop the spread. Knowing the chain of disease transmission helps you prevent or control the spread of a disease. Refer to Chapter 5 for more information about chain of disease transmission. Preventing the disease from happening again. Chapter 11 explains the different levels of disease prevention with practical examples. Recognizing how numbers can help study disease. Epidemiology and biostatistics are like cousin sisters. However, epidemiology isn't learning about math. I often ask my students whether they like math, and most of them, they respond no, and sometimes emphatically that they hate math. That's okay. Epidemiology doesn't deal with hardcore math problems. These sections explain that epidemiologists use a basic knowledge of algebra to calculate numbers. Grappling with the epidemiologic triangle. The concept of the epidemiologic triangle includes these three factors of a disease. Agent, the causative factor, such as a bacteria, virus, or parasite. In other words, the what that causes the disease. Host, humans and non-human animals can harbor a disease. They're called disease hosts. Environment, factors in the environment such as temperature, hot or cold, noise, moisture, dusts, and others cause diseases. Also, agents and hosts both live in the environment, which makes a balance between disease and health. When germs enter and grow in the human body, it's called an infection. The germs may be bacteria, viruses, parasites, yeasts, fungi, or other microorganisms. They're agents for an infectious disease. These agents live and multiply in the environment that humans live. But an infection doesn't necessarily lead to a disease. The favorable conditions in the environment help agents grow. On the other hand, when a person's immune system is strong enough, it can fight the germs and cure an infection without causing a disease. If immunity is low, the germs get the upper hand, and the person fails to resist the infection, which in turn leads to a disease. In a chronic disease model, as I describe in Chapter 6, you can find that the causes are multifactorial. They are called risk factors instead of agents. Chapter 16 explains the concept of multiple risk factors for a non-communicable disease. Classifying epidemiology. Two broad classifications of epidemiology that you need to know are as follows. Descriptive. Descriptive epidemiology provides you answers for what, when, where, and who questions. Most health surveys, censuses, and case reports are descriptive in nature. In descriptive studies, you can identify risk groups or hotspots, or areas where diseases and agents cluster. Descriptive information can be highly valuable in generating a hypothesis and conducting a future study to evaluate the hypothesis through experimental studies, interventional studies, or a randomized controlled clinical trial, RCT. You can find details in Chapter 17. Analytical. Analytical epidemiology deals with the why and how questions. Some statistical tests, called inferential statistics, are used for answering these questions. Analytical epidemiology is used to prove the hypothesis. Understanding epidemiologic transition. The changing nature of diseases is a continuous process, and it depends on several factors, including the ecology, public health measures, vaccine development, antibiotic use, genetics, and other host factors. The transition of disease occurrence from acute to infectious diseases to chronic and non-communicable diseases, NCDs, is called the epidemiologic transition. Chapter 8 describes in greater detail this changing pattern of diseases. Consider the following. The worldwide pandemic of COVID-19 has evolved as one of the most fatal diseases in human history. Similarly, a few other pandemics, including plague, influenza, flu, smallpox, and HIV/AIDS, have caused devastations and killed a large number of people. Some other infectious diseases, such as pneumonia, diarrhea, malaria, and tuberculosis, are still common causes of morbidity and mortality in many developing countries. On the other hand, non-communicable diseases such as heart disease, cancer, stroke, unintentional injuries, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, Alzheimer's disease, and diabetes are the leading causes of death in the United States. Developed countries have curtailed mortality rates from infectious diseases. Some of the infectious disease has been eliminated, such as smallpox, in the world, or reduced to a minimum level, such as polio, tetanus, measles, in developed countries. Polio is expected to be eliminated soon. Connecting demography and disease. Changes in demography are certainly affecting the disease pattern and the healthcare costs. Health consequences of aging are many, including pain and arthritis, osteoporosis, falls and accidents, hearing defects, eye problems, heart disease, diabetes, depression, Alzheimer's, and senile dementia. The burden of healthcare costs is also escalating. For example, in recent years, 1/5 of older Americans spend more than $2,000 out of pocket on healthcare. Chapter 9 looks at different demographics, including a comparative picture of the population structure of several countries, a list of the 10 most populous states in the United States, and the top 10 countries with the largest proportion of senior citizens. In addition, you can discover how to project step by step the future population of several countries. Figuring out rates and risks. One of the focuses of descriptive epidemiology is to calculate rates and risks. Epidemiologists summarize health reports and describe the risks based on numbers. Chapter 10 explains how to calculate important rates, such as crude birth rate, crude death rate, age-specific rates such as infant mortality rate, neonatal mortality rate, post-neonatal mortality rate, and perinatal mortality rate, cause-specific rates such as cancer and heart diseases mortality rate, and gender-specific rates such as breast cancer rates and prostate cancer rates. Some of the rates, such as mortality rates, often need to be standardized to compare with similar rates of an entire country or another nation. This process is called standardization. This same chapter shows you how to standardize mortality rates by using direct and indirect methods. Focusing on prevention rather than a cure. The 3 levels of disease prevention include averting a disease before it attacks you, detecting a disease early enough so that you can reduce the disease severity, preventing disabilities, and promoting quality of life. The following sections discuss the specifics. Identifying prevention levels. 3 levels of prevention include primary, secondary, and tertiary prevention. By a simple method of hand washing, you can prevent a number of diseases, such as waterborne diseases and COVID-19. Chapter 11 discusses what diseases can be prevented and what the levels of prevention are. Using vaccines. Vaccines give you a type of immunity which lasts long, sometimes lifelong, such as measles. This is called artificially acquired immunity, in contrast to natural active immunity acquired from exposure to a disease. Chapter 12 explains the importance of vaccines and provides a vaccination schedule by age group. I also explain what vaccines you shouldn't get if you're pregnant. Surveilling disease. The National Notifiable Disease Surveillance System, NNDSS, is currently surveilling about 120 diseases.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?